All right, welcome to Rallye in the Ozarks podcast, season 1, episode 1. So I'm here today with my co-host, Jay. Jay, how are you doing this morning?
Doing great, buddy.
Good. So Jay has been kind enough to co-host with me as we go through this Rallye in the Ozarks journey. And hopefully you guys will get some knowledge out of this podcast, and hopefully we'll build a sense of community as we go through some different topics and guest speakers and stuff like that. But it's all pertaining to vintage 4x4s. So buckle up. Here we go. First thing I want to talk about is, so Jay, he's our seasoned vet. And I'm kind of our newbie when it comes to off-roading. And we both have worked on vintage 4x4s for probably majority of our lives at this point.
That's right.
So, but we're going to try and just talk about some stuff that we know and share that knowledge with you. Jay, how long have you been off-roading with vintage vehicles?
Oh gosh, probably in the vintage stuff. So I got a 76 CJ7. That would have been my first. Going back one more Jeep before that, I had a Jeep YJ. So it would have been probably a late 80s, early 90s. I'm not sure when the YJ was over, but that would have been my first one. I did it probably in 2006. So that would have been my first experience off-roading a Jeep, true off-roading.
Okay, yeah. All right, so mine goes back to 6 months ago. So.
Okay. But you've had Scouts for forever.
Yeah, I've had Scouts for the last probably 15 years of my life, driving them, and then my dad had one when I was real little, so I've had them most of my life. But get them running and driving, but never really take them off-roading,
right,
which is a whole new experience and really fun, and the most fun I've had, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
same with me. I've had square body 4x4s, I've Chevy trucks, Ford trucks. I've had tons of 4x4s over the years, but specific built off-road rigs, probably only for myself within the last 10 years.
So why do you think off-roading them is so much fun, just in its own little area?
Well, that's funny you should ask. So that YJ Jeep that I bought a basket case out of a park. The park had used it for their tram tours, and I had bought the old Jeep, and I thought I know a couple of these guys that off-road these old Jeeps, and I'm gonna go get in this world with them and see what this is all about. And I have a drag racing background and road racing background, so for me to get into a Jeep was almost boring. And that YJ, I went out into an off-road park and wheeled it one time, and I thought, this is the dumbest thing that you can do in motorsports, because I hated it.
It was too slow?
It was way too slow for me. Okay. And we had just sold our drag race program and got completely out of it. The kids were really young, and my wife and I decided that getting out of drag racing was probably smart as we're raising our kids. So I thought maybe taking it down a notch would be the way to go. But long story short, didn't really enjoy the off-roading too much in my first go at it. And a couple of my other buddies were doing it, and a matter of fact, a number of them were racing King of the Hammers, and they were doing the true off-road racing. I thought, okay, now I can get into this. And that was when the rock bouncers were really starting to take off. And I thought, okay, well, you can kind of mix this rock racing, rock crawling, hot rod world up into the off-road, and that's what got me more into. And I've always had old cars, so it just led into my passion for the vintage side of everything. So that's my take on it.
I would agree. Like when I was growing up and I would see rock crawling or off-roading, I would just think how boring it must be because you're going so slow. But it's just something totally different when you're inside that truck and you got the whole truck around you and you got to kind of work your way over this obstacle. And I don't know, maybe it's a maturing thing, but it's the most fun I've had.
Yeah. Well, going past that first experience of mine led me into more of the community of the off-road world, which was what really brought it all full circle for me. That having the groups of guys that go out and wheel and just being able to take 10 or 15 different people and getting everybody together and just taking off and going on a trip, that's, to me, that's the funnest part of the whole thing.
Right.
Yep.
And luckily you don't have to go too awful far to find some place that you and your buddies can go.
No, especially here in the Ozarks, golly, you can go to 10 or 15 different probably 5 different places to take you from mild, where it's just back road, dirt road, Forest Service road stuff, all the way up to ridiculous.
Yeah. We're super fortunate in this part of the world, but with the new apps like Gaia and Onyx Off Road and stuff like that, there's definitely, it's getting easier to find those. It used to be, I can remember when I was a little kid, my dad somewhere got like the minimum maintenance road map. But really that was just more like farmer access roads, you know.
Okay. I've never heard of that.
Yeah, and you really, like, you'd show up and it's like, okay, this is a minimum maintenance road, but it was really just for the farmer to drive his tractor into. And if you tear that up, it's not really. So yeah, but yeah, I think with Onyx and stuff like that, you're finding some more places that you can go wheel on a lot easier.
Sure. Well, technology sure benefited that aspect of it, is just having the information out there as to, okay, I'm new to this, where do I go, what do I do, how do I do this, and then especially if you can gather up with a few other like-minded people, that makes it even 10 times better.
Yeah. So let's talk about a little bit like what Rallye in the Ozarks, this podcast, is going to be. Like you've touched on, it's going to be more of I want it to be a community feel where you can check in with us on our podcast and our YouTube videos each week and kind of see what we're talking about and get to know us. We want some interaction from you all. And while it is going to be kind of an online based thing, we definitely want to meet up and go out and go wheeling with everybody that has a vintage vehicle.
That's right.
So there seems like there's a little bit of this world out there, but I'm not finding a whole lot local for us here.
There's small knit groups, and it's typically brand specific, it seems. Whether you've got a Scout, whether you've got a Jeep, whether you've got a Bronco, whether you've got a Isuzu Trooper, whatever your passion is in life, it seems that everything is brand specific, and that's what excites me about all of this, keeping it more general, vintage off-road. Whether you've got a Jeep, whether you've got a Bronco, a Scout, whatever your passion to go off-roading is that, and it's pretty exciting thinking through Rallye in the Ozarks and the vintage 4x4 group, is to get it more, nothing against the new stuff. Of course, matter of fact, my wife drives a newer Jeep herself, but the vintage stuff is we're hopeful to gather this community together to where many like-minded people can share their experiences, share their knowledge, and put it all to pretty good use.
Are you saying that maybe, just maybe, a Bronco and a Jeep and a Scout could all be on the same trail?
Oh, I totally think so. And as many shenanigans as are done on the trail, I think a little bit of hey, watch my Bronco go outdo your Jeep, and I think it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And it's not, and it really, to your point, it doesn't happen very much. It seems to be very group specific, and we're hopeful that our efforts here will help out to bring everybody together a little bit more.
Yeah, I will say before going to the event where we met, I was pretty harsh on the Jeeps.
Yeah.
And once I watched Jeeps just crawl up obstacles that I didn't think were possible, I kind of it took about an hour to learn a new perspective on life.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting, and as much time as I've spent in the Jeep world with the Jeep clubs, one of my funnest things was to take, and we in the Jeep club we would put on a put on not an event, just a meeting where we would do a Wheeling 101 event, and it was the basics of how to take your Jeep off-road and what to do, how to air down your tires, how to disconnect your sway bars, how to put it in four-wheel drive, the very basics, and to take these people out that have never taken or have been scared to take their Jeep off-road. We don't have to go out and do the dumb stuff. We don't have to go scratch your vehicle up. We just have to take it and drive it through nature and enjoy the outdoors. And Rallye in the Ozarks event specifically will have everything, and it'll have we're just going to take you out and goof off, and we're going to go take you out and go do dumb stuff. If you want to take your off-road rig and go do dumb stuff, we can do that too.
Yeah. They were meant to be driven when they were built 40, 50, 30 years ago, and it's still okay to drive them.
Yeah, but if you're the kind of person who has invested a lot of time and effort into your rig and you don't want to get it scratched up, we understand that 100%. And you can go out and enjoy the outdoors and enjoy nature and enjoy trail riding in your Jeep and not have to worry about that too.
Yeah. So that's some more good stuff. Like, in my mind, I think we can go back and touch on Off-Roading 101 in this series of podcasts and YouTube videos. I think we can go do that. We can talk about specific to the vintage vehicle, like you talked about disconnecting your sway bar.
Yeah.
For those of you that have heard that term, we are not going to need to do that.
No, the vintage rigs don't.
Don't.
Well, some of them do, some of them don't, but probably 99% of them don't.
Yeah. So, yeah, we can talk about all that stuff. I think I'm excited to touch on all those topics moving forward.
Yep.
Before we go any further, we have a great backdrop here. This is a rig that Jay is working on right now.
Nope.
So what is this?
This is a 63 International Scout 80.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Ish.
Yeah.
10.
And that's a whole nother thing. So while the outside is 63 Scout 80, the inside is newer Hart.
Yep.
And that's okay.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
All of us are different in our mind of what we see a vehicle as, right? So I'm not the kind of guy that sees a vintage vehicle and says it has to go back to nut and bolt restoration to be correct.
No.
This Scout behind me, I consider it a resto mod. It's been modified to its purpose in life, which I want to daily drive this rig, and I also want to off-road it a little bit, and I want to camp out of it a little bit, and I want to be able to tow my motorcycles to the motorcycle park and go ride motorcycles for the day. So this is a purpose-built rig that it will help, in my mind, if I do everything correctly, will be a very reliable base. It'll ride down the road good. It'll tow a little bit of material. And not that a nut and bolt restoration vehicle wouldn't do that, but I've had a few of those cars in my life, and I'm more scared to drive that style of car than I am to just kind of put one back together and polish it up, make it 80%, make it mechanically really good and reliable, and then just go have fun with it.
I think for me, when I have a more stock rig, because you have some stock rigs still, I have some pretty stock rigs, the bucket of parts grows.
Oh gosh.
In the back. Like when you put a newer like LS engine into one, I think it cuts half your parts.
Absolutely.
Bucket.
You don't have to carry 3 fuel pumps and 2 carburetors and
So it's still fun. We had a rig breakdown on the trails about 3 or 4 months ago, and I had an extra radiator hose. He blew the radiator hose, and I had one.
Yep.
But if I had an LS in mine, I probably wouldn't have thrown another radiator hose in it.
That's right. Yeah, you don't. So once again, and we're diving down a rabbit hole.
Yes,
here.
we are. It's
talking
our
about
show,
this.
though, and we can.
Very true. So with the modification, resto mod versus true stock versus completely modified, I think there's just a world for everybody, and everybody fits into that world, and that's what makes us all individuals and unique, and that's what is so awesome to me about the car world, is that folks can get together, be different minded on how a vehicle should be put together. And I always think too, a vehicle needs to be put together as your purpose as to how it starts. So this International behind me was probably not even good enough to make a patina rig out of. It was pretty far gone, not ridiculous far gone, but it was rusty. It was crusty, and it was torn up pretty bad. So I see that rig and I say, okay, well, it doesn't need to go back nut and bolt restoration. It's not rust free enough to do that, but it is rusty enough that I can modify it to what I want to do with it and not feel bad that I've taken a good base and butchered it.
No.
So I think that's where you have to look at, if you're building a car, you have to look at it from the very beginning.
No.
It's good enough to start here, or it's bad enough to go here with it. And that's just my 2 cents.
If I remember correctly, the end caps look like somebody owned stock in Bondo.
That's right. There was probably half a semi-load of Bondo in it, and it was still pretty bad.
Yeah.
Now, most of what I do to a car eliminates all of that low rust. So if I'm going to go in and do a modification to a car where I'm coming in and I'm strengthening up the rockers and I'm making it a purpose-built off-road rig, I don't care for the rust. I'm going to cut that part of it out anyway. So if it's a little rusty in the rocker, great. That just means I'm not ruining somebody else's good rocker.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that's kind of an introduction to how we feel about vehicles.
Yeah.
So if you're, hopefully everybody that's here feels the same way essentially. So let's ask this question real quick: why a vintage vehicle in 2024?
Oh, that is
for somebody. If someone's out there listening right now, and they're like, they got a little bit of money in their pocket, whatever. I'm not saying a lot. I'm just saying you've saved up whatever your budget is, and you're like, do I go buy a used TJ or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I go buy a used Scout?
Okay. Well, I think that's so. In my opinion, there is something very romantic about driving a vintage vehicle, whether it's on-road, off-road, road course, drag racing, whatever that is. There's something to me personally that is just super cool about taking a car, and I'm a car builder, right? So I like to build my vehicles to the end goal. Some people like to just buy them done and teach their own, whatever your case is, but me specifically, and I think many classic car guys or Jeep guys are the same way, where as you take something that was sitting in a field that was rotten, and you're bringing it back to life, and you're using it for what it's meant to be used for, whether that's a car show, whether that's heavy duty trail riding, whether it's just taking it to go get ice cream. I've got an ice cream Jeep that I love to take off-road too, and it's a really fun rig to take off-road. But the vintage side of it is so much different. The people that own the vintage rigs are just as like-minded as the people that own new rigs. So you've got the group of guys that we've been car guys our whole lives. We've tinkered on stuff. Of course. And when I say guys, I mean just people in general. I'm horrible about that. Guys and gals, anybody that makes an effort to take something and to take it from being in shambles or in bad disrepair and fixing it back up. I don't care if you're 10 years old, 50 years old, whether you're a man, a woman, whatever. There's a lot of gratification to taking a rig and making it roadworthy, trailworthy, whatever your end goal is there, and not just being and not that a nut and bolt guy isn't a fun guy to hang around with too, because there's in the newer rigs it seems like you just kind of bolt things onto it and make it better, right? So you've got the aftermarket world that says here's a new axle, here's a new spring, here's a new whatever, and that makes your rig more capable of whatever your intention is, whether it's overlanding or rock crawling or trail riding or whatever your goal is there. So to me, the vintage 4x4s, there's just something more, me personally, the people that are involved in the vintage world are are more of the builder style of people, more of the hands-on. They understand breakdowns, they understand mechanical working, not necessarily more so, but that group of people just seems to be more like-minded folks, and that's what's always kept me in the vintage side of it. So to answer your question, just the romance of the old car is what keeps it interesting for me.
Yeah, quirks of the old car. Even when you get one put together, there's something that you're like, well, you got to kind of do this,
Right,
or whatever, and it has a lot more personality than the push to start brand new truck for sure.
now I've got one of those myself, and it is nice to go drive around, especially in the off-road world where you push a button and your lockers come on, and you push a button and they go off, and it turns good, and I can't complain about that. I love it, but the old stuff is still where my heart lies, and that's where I'm going to always live.
Yeah, as long as they'll let us, right?
As long as I can survive it.
Okay, so this platform is going to be about the old stuff, as we've talked about, and so we're going to try and bring you a podcast each week talking about vintage 4x4 topics, or even we'll stem out into off-roading topics as they pertain to our vehicles. We're looking to do some YouTube videos talking about different vehicles, how this works, how that works, in a general scope. We may dive into something extremely specific, but for the most part, we're just going to talk about, simple stuff that every vehicle has in common. Mechanical, hydraulic mechanical brakes. And stuff like that, how it's working, why won't my brakes bleed? Why is my, but at a really high level. So we can do that. I would like to have some participation from y'all about, maybe a 5-minute segment each week. If you would like to call in and tell us about the vehicle that you're working on, and we'll work that into the show. We're going to work to get some guests on each week and do a little spotlight on the guests, and that may be somebody in industry, that may just be some people that we've met that are doing really cool things, and we'll work that into this show. And we're going to shoot for, I think, a 30 to 45 minute show a week is pretty good. So that's what we'll do. We both have a lot going on in our lives, but I think most of it still pertains to this.
That's right.
So
there's always something in the off-road world to be working on or thinking through.
And so what this is all going to lead up to, this series each week that's coming out, we are going to have an event called Rallye in the Ozarks. That's going to be October 4th and 5th in Seymour, Missouri, at an off-road park. Kind of our home off-road park.
Southern Missouri Off-Road Ranch.
Yeah. Southern Missouri Off-Road Ranch in Seymour, Missouri. How long have you been wheeling there?
Oh gosh, since 2017, I think. I've been a part of a handful of events out there where I've led groups of off-roaders around. So it's a really great park. If you've never been there, it's everything from simple back road driving, where it's basically just a little bit what I would consider like a rough dirt road. Not just a dirt road that you drove down and it's got some potholes in it, all the way up to full level rock bouncing trails, and everything in between. So you can go there and you can spend a full day, which we did last year, 2 days, as a matter of fact. Zack and I met at an off-road event where we just spent 2 full days just doing very simple, maybe a little bit more elevated, I would call it a 2, maybe even into a 3 on occasion, level of trails where pretty much a stock, am I saying it right, a stock Jeep could go, or a stock Scout or a stock Bronco could go and do an occasional 3 and be fine?
For sure. So the 1s and 2s, there's no reason that anything, I would stick some 31-inch tall tires on, just to help you get over some of the bigger, rocks or whatever.
Yeah.
That you, and when I say a bigger rock, I mean just something over a pothole. Yeah. But a stock suspension and some 31s would do any 1 and 2.
Yeah.
For sure. The 3s, I think you probably want to get like a 2-inch lift.
Yeah.
And if you can get some 33s on there. However, the truck that I had at this event was on a 2-inch lift with 31s.
Yeah, it did great.
Did awesome. Open differentials. If you don't know what that is, tune in to the next couple of podcasts. We'll talk about differentials and stuff and talk about some trail prep. Because the reason I want to go into that is because the way that I went into that event was pretty much completely blind. I'd read magazines, and seen crazy big trucks and stuff, but never really thought about building my own rig.
Yeah.
And I didn't know what to expect. If you remember, I showed up that morning with the winch hanging out of my front bumper, like 2 foot, because I was like, I don't know, we might need winches.
Yeah.
I don't know what we're doing today. So, yeah, I looked a little bit goofy. I took the winch off pretty quickly.
That's like I said earlier, one of my favorite things is introducing new people into this. And what was so you went into that event pretty green to off-roading, right? Or very green to off-roading. And when I say green, I mean inexperienced. You hadn't been out on and done trail riding ever, right? Other than just back roads and back, like overland style camping, Forest Service roads. You'd done a lot of that, right?
Yeah, gone camping and gone down gravel roads, but where I got caught up was I was too busy building trucks to drive on the road and not, in my opinion, for myself, I wasn't focusing in on what these older vintage 4x4s are good at, which is getting off-road.
That's right.
And so I'm kind of disappointed in my 20s that I didn't go out and do more off-roading, and I waited until I was 31 to finally, really need the hubs locked in.
And what was your reaction to that 2-day event that we had after? So you went in, you pretty much didn't have any like off-road park experience at all, and you weren't 100% sure what to expect. So at the end of that rally that we had, not Rallye in the Ozarks, but a different, what was your take on the whole thing? What was your take on the experience?
It blew me away at how capable the rig was,
right,
with a 2-inch lift. Every single time, so Jay was our trail leader, and every single time we'd crawl down into this valley, I would think there's no way we're getting back up that. And if I was going slow enough that I missed where the guy in front of me went, I was like, they did not go up that hill.
Yeah.
And then I would just point the truck in that direction, give it some gas, and it would walk right up.
Go right up it, no big deal. But you're right. The first experience with that, you think to yourself, oh my gosh, there's no way my car or my truck's going to make it up, whatever you're looking at.
Yeah.
And after you spend the first day and you get those butterflies out of your stomach, then the second day is really fun typically. And anyway, so
I think so going back to that, I wouldn't, and I've talked to our friend Greg about it. Both of us have said neither one of us would have done the trails that we did, the more aggressive 2s and then the 3s that we did, because we did a few 3s.
Yeah.
We would not have done them if we weren't in a group of people.
Right. We
weren't aware that we could do it.
Yeah.
And neither one of us really broke. So there was no problems.
No problems. It was super fun week. It was super fun event. I think the event that Rallye in the Ozarks will be a very similar process to what the other event was, where just a bunch of people are going to get together. And once again, if you're going to this, and we need to talk about s'more a little bit more, but if you're going to go to this and you're going to say, okay, I want to do 1s and 2s, or I just want to do 1s, I just want to go drive down the trails, I want to experience what's happening out there, I want to see the park for the first time. And if that bores you at lunch on the first day, move up to a different group, go to the harder stuff. If you're in the harder stuff and you're like, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous, why am I doing this, you can go down a group. So it's very versatile. the groups of people, the back road runs, and Zach will talk a lot more about his event to that aspect, but whatever you sign up for at Rallye in the Ozarks, you're going to have capable people that are going to be able to take you and do whatever it is that you've signed up for safely.
Yeah, and it's very, we're not going to be like super duper strict about anything. It's going to be so laid back.
It's all about fun. We're just going to
Yeah.
go drive our 4x4s around and go have a good time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And yeah, the other thing about the event is if you don't, like if you're just absolutely like, I do not want to go down the trails, like I've got too much money in my paint job and I'm not going out there.
Right.
We're going to have a road run, and Seymour is an amazing little town that is getting, how many people are in Seymour?
Oh gosh, I'd say, and I'm just guessing, maybe 3,000 to 6,000 people population,
But
maybe more.
there's new businesses coming into town all the time.
Right.
And they do like their town days and stuff. There's still like a really good community feel just in that town alone.
Yeah.
So we'll go out and we'll go to lunch there, and we'll do some driving around. So if that's your deal, there's gonna be plenty of people that want to do that.
There are things to eat in Seymour that you can't get anywhere else in the United States.
Being
Just a good old cheeseburger, a very specific cheeseburger. I don't want to allude, and I don't want to say anything wrong, but there's a place in Seymour that you can get a cheeseburger that you can't get anywhere else in America.
yeah,
I think,
yeah.
allegedly.
But he's right. It's a very interesting town. So it is the perfect place.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's a really old town. It's really neat. There's a really good group of people there. And one more thing to touch on about S'more is the facilities. If you've never been to Southern Missouri Off-Road Ranch, the facilities there are top notch.
They are.
100%. Bathrooms, shower houses, camping, whether you're a tent camper, RV sites, 50 amp RV sites, 30 amp RV sites, tent camping, generator camping. The campground is amazing. I don't know how many people it can hold. I think there's over 100 electric sites there to park your RV at. There's acres and acres and acres of tent or generator camping. Everything is specific, so there are places where you can go camp with a generator, and that is not in the same place that you go and camp with a tent. So if you're a tent camper, you ain't got to worry about your neighbor having a generator running right next to your tent site. So there's very specific, the owners of that park have made exuberant efforts to make it a great experience, and it is. Whether it's the trails that you're going for, whether it's the camping, whether it's the back road run, it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's definitely the best off-road park that I've ever been to. Now, and I've been to a few. When I was little, we would ride ATVs, and yeah, usually you show up and it's not, there's a gravel parking lot and maybe a bathroom.
Yeah.
And the S'more facilities blew me away.
Yeah, it's a really good park.
So let's talk just one real quick about the event. So Friday, we're going to go out and do trails starting in the morning, and we are going to do our best to trim the trees and make sure that no scratches, no guarantees, but we're going to try to eliminate scratches off the 1s and 2s trails as best we can, for the more stock rigs and whatnot. And so that's kind of Friday. I want to do a social hangout Friday night, and I don't know exactly what that looks like yet. We're still kind of working on that. It may even be running back into town to a restaurant or something. We'll have to figure that out. Then Saturday morning, waking up, going through kind of a driver's meeting, coffee and donuts, and then going out and hitting the trails. Once again, offering easy, moderate, and difficult trails. And then have lunch. And I think the road run will leave out at that point on Saturday and go do, I'm thinking, 80 miles worth of roads. Figure 80 miles in 4 hours, 5 hours.
Yeah.
And then come back. We're going to have dinner Saturday night at the pavilion. And then we'll have a raffle giving away some items. And then Sunday morning, everybody's got to either leave or pay park fees for that day, and they can stay.
Yep, and it's only open till the end of the business Sunday, so unless you've made prior arrangements with the park owner, you have to be out by Sunday at 5 p.m., I believe.
Yeah,
or dark.
Our ticket will cover access to the park Friday and Saturday,
Yep.
but not Sunday. So,
and then if you do want to stay Sunday, if you want to go and you want to experience more on your own or with a small group of people, which I highly recommend, you don't go out wheeling on your own, but so all you have to do is go back up to the gatehouse, pay for your wheeling on Sunday, and you can stay and wheel all day Sunday too.
Yep. Okay. That being said, you can purchase tickets if you're ready to purchase tickets. We have an Eventbrite page. Just type in Rallye in the Ozarks, and you can find us there. We are looking for sponsorships. If any of the businesses out there are listening and you'd like to help sponsor, give us some raffle items or something like that, that would be much appreciated. So if you're listening, reach out to me. Man.
How do you reach out to you?
Oh, yes. So I'm on Instagram with my name, Zach Grimes. You can reach out to me, Instagram, Rallye in the Ozarks. We have a Facebook page, Rallye in the Ozarks. You can reach out to me that way. I believe my number is on the Eventbrite page, so you can give me a call there. But yeah, any of those. Then of course we'll be on YouTube, so you can message me there. Rallye in the Ozarks on YouTube. Anything we missed?
I think that covers it in a very high level. Of course, we'll come back weekly and talk a little bit more in depth about everything. We'll talk about the tickets. We'll talk about how to get into the right groups. We'll talk about expectations of the trails, expectations of the back runs. We'll cover most of everything in pretty good detail, but still leave enough of it so that it's an adventure as well. We don't want everybody to come in and know exactly what to expect, exactly what trails we're going to be running, exactly what back roads we're going to be doing. We'll just give you a basic, hey, this one's not going to tear your car up. This one, there's a possibility you could get yourself a dent or a scratch, and this one is imminent, to a flat tire or a dented rock or whatever the case is. And I'm not trying to scare anybody. I'm just saying, if you have a vehicle and you want to go do the extreme stuff, we're going to give you that opportunity.
Yeah.
And if you just want to go do some experience the park and experience the back trails, then we'll give that option too. But we'll dive more into depth into that as we progress through the series.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Me too.
I'm excited. So I think that's going to end it for today. Reach out to us if you want to be either featured on the Readers. I keep saying Readers Rides because of off-road magazines, but we'll do the Listeners Spotlight.
There you go, Listener Spotlight. Yeah. Throw us your rigs. Tell us what you're bringing to Rallye in the Ozarks, and let's see what to expect when you all get here.
Yeah. So reach out to us on that, and reach out to us with anything that you want to hear about. I know I've had a few people say like trail prep is a big thing, which would have been good. I wouldn't have hung a bumper 3 foot off the front of my truck.
Yeah.
So I should have. But so just give us a shout. We're excited to meet all of you and to build a community here. So thanks for listening.